On June 12, 2026, Jeep pulled the cover off a brand new Wrangler and named it the Sarge. This isn't just another special edition. Jeep just brought back a piece of 1941, complete with military styling, wartime history, and a hidden controversy that's got Jeep fans fighting online. Here's the story behind the new 2027 Sarge Edition. Let's start with the brand new 2027 Jeep Wrangler Sarge. It dropped on June 12, 2026, straight out of Jeep's headquarters in Auburn Hills, Michigan. And it's the 8th special Wrangler in a year-long birthday party Jeep is calling 12-4-12. The idea is simple. Jeep turns 85 this year, so they're rolling out one fresh Wrangler on the 12th of every month for a whole year. Some earlier drops brought back the big V8 engine and even gave one truck plaid seats for the first time in decades. The Sarge is number 8 in that run, and it's a tribute to the original 1941 Willys MB, the little army Jeep that started the whole brand. You can get it on the 2-door Wrangler, the 4-door Wrangler, and even the Gladiator pickup, in either Willys or Rubicon trim. Jeep's brand boss, Bob Broderdorf, said the goal was honoring the past by carrying it forward, not just looking backward. But they didn't just slap a sticker on it and call it done. They gave it a white star on the doors, a big 1941 sticker across the hood, and bronze tow hooks bolted to the bumpers. And the second those photos went live, a bunch of hardcore Jeep fans started arguing online. Because something about the paint didn't add up, and that fight is where this story gets good. Now the catch is that 41 green paint. The truck is called the Sarge, but it isn't actually painted in the famous color called Sarge green. That's the twist nobody saw coming. Jeep owns 2 different army green paints, and they look close, but they're not the same thing. One of them is Sarge green, an olive shade Jeep sold on Wranglers and Gladiators for years, going all the way back to around 2016. The other one is called 41 green, a darker, muddier green Jeep first rolled out in 2020. And the Sarge Edition wears 41 green, not Sarge green, which means you've got a Jeep named after one color while wearing a completely different one. On the big Jeep forums, owners noticed within minutes. One poster on JL Wrangler forums flat out called it a marketing trick and said the company had photoshopped the paint to look greener in the photos than it really is in person. Fair or not, the naming really is confusing, and it kind of seems confusing on purpose. So if you ever go shopping for one of these, read the build sheet closely, because the word Sarge on the badge and the paint in the can are 2 separate things. The color is just paint, though. What Jeep bolted onto the truck itself is where it gets serious. Take a closer look at the styling of the 2027 Wrangler Sarge. Up front, the trim around the grille comes in 41 green or white, wrapping that famous 7-slot Jeep face. On the hood sits an old-school 1941 sticker, and on the doors you get those military star graphics, in green or bright white. The tow hooks are bronze. The wheels are 17 inches, painted 41 green, and wrapped in chunky 33-inch BF Goodrich off-road tires straight from the factory. You also get steel rock rails along the bottom, body-colored fender flares, and a hardtop roof that matches the paint. Top to bottom, the whole thing wears one theme. But the smartest move Jeep made was something you can't even see. The closest thing Jeep already sold to this was the older Willys 41 edition, and that one had a weird limit. You couldn't buy the Willys 41 as a 2-door, which is the exact body shape closest to the original Army Jeep. The Sarge fixed that. You can finally get the 2-door, and it isn't locked to a single paint color the way the 41 was, so buyers get way more choice. The part that really got people talking, though, was waiting inside the cabin. Climb inside the cabin of the 2027 Jeep Sarge. This is where Jeep went all in on the theme. The seats are wrapped in a tough cloth Jeep calls soul cloth, stitched with a gold thread they named Mayan Gold. The dashboard, the armrests, and the center console get a 2-tone mix of tan leather and drab green. But the little touches are the fun part. There's a 1941 plaque sitting right by the cup holders. The shift knob has a tiny star on top, the same star the Army painted on its trucks back in the war. And the heater buttons have the 7-slot grill shape pressed right into them, so you're basically poking little Jeep grills every time you change the temperature. Around the back, the swing gate gets one more plaque tying the whole thing to Jeep's history. This isn't some plain Wrangler with a fresh coat of paint. Every single surface you touch is whispering 1941 at you. But Jeep didn't stop with the Wrangler. They built a pickup version too, and it pulls off something the Wrangler simply can't. Quick pause. If you want to keep your Jeep running for 300,000, 400,000, even 500,000 miles, check out my 500,000-mile Jeep Blueprint. It's packed with the maintenance tips, service schedules, and common mistakes that cost Jeep owners thousands. The link is in the description below. Over here sits the 2027 Jeep Gladiator Sarge. The Gladiator is Jeep's pickup truck, and it's the only pickup you can buy where the roof and the doors both come off for full open-air driving. Jeep gave it the exact same Sarge treatment: the green paint, the white star, the 1941 hood sticker, and that tan and green interior. But the Gladiator brings real muscle the Wrangler doesn't have. It can tow up to 7,700 pounds and carry 1,720 pounds of stuff in the bed. That's enough to drag a loaded trailer or a big boat up a mountain and still crawl over rocks on the weekend. It's also built to climb onto steep ledges without scraping its nose. That makes the Gladiator Sarge the workhorse of the pair, the one you'd actually load up and put to work. All of that toughness comes at a higher price than the Wrangler, and that drops us straight into the money. Then comes the price of the 2027 Sarge. This is where Jeep played it clever. In the official announcement, they didn't even print a full price tag. They just said the four-door Wrangler Sarge costs $100 more than a normal Willys or Rubicon, and the Gladiator Sarge costs $500 more. That was the whole price reveal. $100 for the entire military theme on the Wrangler. The car site CarBuzz did the real math and landed the four-door Wrangler Sarge at around $45,700 before the shipping fee, with the Gladiator starting close to $47,000. But the real surprise is what happens when you compare it. CarBuzz pointed out the four-door Sarge comes in about $3,600 cheaper than the older Willys 41 it's clearly copying. That means you get the same military look, more body styles to pick from, and you somehow pay less than the version that came before it. On paper, the Sarge is one of the best deals Jeep has put out in years. But the truck this whole thing copies has a wild backstory most buyers know nothing about, and it starts with a company almost nobody remembers. From here we go back to the real 1941 Willys story. In the summer of 1940, the U.S. Army knew a war was coming and needed a tiny, tough, four-wheel drive scout car fast. So they fired the request off to 135 American car makers with a brutal rule attached: build us a working version in 49 days. Out of all those companies, only 2 even bothered to try. One of them was a nearly broke little company called American Bantam, out of Butler, Pennsylvania. They barely had any engineers left, so they brought in an outside designer named Carl Probst, who sketched the entire vehicle in about 2 days. His crew then hand-built the first one and beat that crazy deadline. To break in the engine, they drove the finished truck themselves all the way to the Army's test grounds at Camp Holabird in Maryland, getting it there on September 23, 1940. The Army loved it. But Bantam was way too small and way too broke to build hundreds of thousands of these for a world war. That's when the Army did something pretty cold. They took Bantam's blueprints and handed them straight to bigger rivals. And one of those rivals would grab all the glory. This is how Willys Overland pulled it off. Willys Overland was a car maker out of Toledo, Ohio, and they showed up late to the whole contest. But they walked in with one giant advantage. Their engine, nicknamed the Go Devil, was way stronger than anything Bantam or Ford had. The Army wanted that power badly, so in July 1941, they picked Willys to build the standard Army Jeep, the model officially called the Willys MB. Willys partly won by bidding shockingly low, somewhere around $739 per truck. Then, demand blew up so fast that one factory couldn't keep up, so Ford got brought in to build the very same design, stamping a W for Willys onto each one. Between the two giants, the numbers got absolutely insane. By the time the war ended, more than 647,000 military Jeeps had rolled out. Willys built the biggest share, Ford built a huge chunk of the rest, and poor little Bantam, the company that actually invented the thing, built only about 2,600. The inventor got crushed, and the big factories got rich. But while those factories fought over contracts, the soldiers on the ground were busy handing the truck the one thing money could never buy, a name that would outlive every single person who built it. That sets up where the Jeep name came from. Nobody can fully prove where the name really came from, and that mystery is half the fun. There are two main theories. The first one says it comes from the letters G and P. Ford labeled its version GP, and when you say those two letters out loud and fast, they blur together into Jeep. The second theory is way cooler. Back in 1936, the Popeye comic strip introduced a magical little creature named Eugene the Jeep, a pet that could go absolutely anywhere and fix any problem you threw at it. Soldiers who grew up reading Popeye looked at this go-anywhere truck, and the nickname just clicked. But the name really went public in one famous moment. In February 1941, Willys drove one of these trucks right up the marble steps of the U.S. Capitol to show off in front of Congress. A reporter named Catherine Hillier asked the test driver, Irving Hausman, what the thing was. He said, "It's a Jeep." The next morning, a newspaper ran the headline, "Jeep creeps up Capitol steps," and the name stuck for good. But the strangest secret of all is hiding right on the front of every Jeep ever built. And finally, the secret of the 7-slot grille. Look at the front of any Jeep on the road today, and you'll count 7 up and down slots in the grille. Fans love to say there's one slot for each continent on Earth. That story is a myth. The real reason is way more boring than that. The original wartime Jeep grille was actually a Ford design, and it had 9 slots, not 7. After the war, when Willys started selling a regular Jeep for everyday people in 1945, they cut the grille down to 7 slots so it would look different from Ford's version, which let them claim that shape as their own. That 7-slot face has been the brand's signature ever since. And speaking of stuff money can't buy, one wartime Jeep nicknamed Old Faithful served the Marines on Guadalcanal and got hit by flying metal during a Japanese attack. So its crew gave it a Purple Heart, even though that metal is meant for wounded soldiers, not trucks. So a beat-up little war truck got treated like a hero. It also took Jeep all the way until 1950 to finally win the legal rights to the name itself. So when you walk past that new 2027 Sarge sitting in a showroom, you're not just looking at green paint and a star sticker. You're looking at 85 years of one of the wildest origin stories in car history. So what do you think? Did Jeep nail the 1941 tribute with the new Sarge Edition? Or did they miss the mark? Let me know down in the comments. If you enjoyed this story, give the video a like and subscribe for more Jeep news, history, and ownership content. And if you want to see another incredible Jeep story, click on the video that's on your screen right now. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.